So we're going to start on page 7. Okay, the first lesson is on relationships of angles. And as I mentioned, there's going to be some certain terms here that we're going to cover. If you see any highlighting in the book, that's just signifying for me the most important things I want to talk about today. So before we go too far, I want to talk a little bit more about the protractor. Okay, protractor is used to measure angles. On the previous page here, we're just going to do an example of an angle. I'm going to show you how to use a protractor. So you start, the book will usually say draw using a straight edge. That means anything straight, a ruler would be just fine. So all I'm going to do is draw a line on my paper. And again, I just went on the previous page. And then you can draw whatever angle you would like. Going up. So just any angle you want. Okay, if you're using one of my protractors, we're going to put the middle point, the vertex of the angle, right on the crosshairs here. If anybody's ever done any hunting with a scope, you probably have crosshairs. That dot has to go right here. Okay, so right here is a dot where those meet. Vertex of my angle. That has to go. Some people, when they have trouble, they put it like this on the bottom, but those crosshairs have to go on that point. And then you're also lining up this line at 0 degrees here on the right. Okay, so I'm going to factor it down. So that's lined up perfectly right here. Now you'll notice there's 2 sets of numbers on here. One of them is going to be less than 90, one of them is going to be more than 90. Why would they have that? Well, you can measure going left or right here, right? Angles aren't always going to look the same. Because my line goes to the right, I'm going to start at 0 there. And I'm going to work my way up, so I'm going to use the bottom numbers here. Obviously, it's less than 90. That's something else to keep in mind. That gives you another hint of why you wouldn't use the big numbers here. But looking at mine, how many degrees would you say that is?
47.
Okay, 45 is right here. Maybe 46, 47. I would call mine 46 degrees. Now, yours is probably different than that. Go ahead and measure yours. We'll take a couple minutes here. If you have a question, raise your hand. Mr. Scott or I will double check that you are measuring it correctly. Usually you put the little angle mark right where I did there in the middle. Yeah, so we start at 0, so we're not going to use the big numbers. Start at the small numbers. That's a crosshair right there. So there's 40 less, maybe 38. Good. Good. All right. Okay, then of course, if the angle would be going the other way, then we would use the 0 going this way. It'd be the same thing the other direction. All right, so let's take a look at the first set here. Which angle do you think is bigger?
I think they're both equal.
Both equal. You think they're both the same?
A.
A. Okay, again, we could measure it, right, now with a protractor. And here's what's tough about these angles that they give you in the book. We would have to guess of where that hits here, right? So it's always easier if they make it long enough that it would cross my protractor. Okay, now if I measure, I would have a pretty good indication of how many degrees. So whenever you make an angle and you're going to measure it, make it long enough that it covers the outside of the protractor. for more accuracy. All right, these are actually both the same degrees, so they are equal. Some people might say, well, this is a bigger, because it's bigger than what you started with. Well, the angle has nothing to do with how long the lines are. Okay, those lines go on forever. It doesn't make it a bigger angle. The only thing that makes the angle here is the degrees down on the bottom. Number 2, identify an obtuse. A little review. What's an obtuse angle? Bigger than 90. So when you name angles, guys, we need 3 letters to name an angle. So give me 3 letters, Evan, that represent a obtuse angle there. Say that again. ADC. Okay. You got to watch the order here. ADC would be talking about this angle right here. The middle letter represents the angle you're referring to. Autumn.
DAB.
DA what?
B.
B. Angle DAB. There's a little angle symbol. So DAB in that order is talking about this whole angle right here. How many degrees would that be? That would be 110, 60 plus 50. That's certainly obtuse. Okay, 60 plus 50. How about if I would have said angle BAD? Same thing. Still referring to this one. But A has to be in the middle. If you do DBA, it would be referring to this angle over here, which we don't have any idea what that is. So watch the order there. All right, now we are moving on to page 10. All right, so this one you will not need a protractor for because they already have one drawn for you. So we'll use their drawing. So don't measure anything here. It says Priya thinks the angle measured is 40 degrees. It's talking about angle TUS, it says. That would be this angle right here. Tyler thinks it measures 140. Do you agree with either of them and explain? So just like the one that we measured here we have one going left. The angle's opening up to the left. It crosses here at 40 and 140. So Priya thinks it's 40. Tyler thinks it's 140. It can't be both. So who do you think is right and why? Kinley.
Tyler, when the line goes to the left at the bottom, you have to go to the 0 at the left.
Okay, so if I start at 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. You're right, you got to start at 0 because we're going left, right? And can you tell that the angle, can you look at that angle? Is that bigger than 90?
No.
That should help you too, right? What do you think?
Yeah.
Why?
It's less than 90 and 40. Since it's opening left, you start at 0. And
Yeah, a couple different answers there, right? So it's less than 90. I can tell it's less than 90. This little angle right here. As Kinley and Josh both mentioned as well, you start at 0 because I'm going left. So 0, the number should get bigger. So it's 40. So it's 40. All right, next page, some terms I want to make sure you know. Obviously, right angle, 90 degrees. Okay, they'll either have 90 degrees or it'll be labeled with a little box there. That means the same thing. Straight angle, that might be a new term for you. Straight angle is a line. It will always equal 180 degrees. Straight line always equals 180 degrees. Go all the way around in a circle, 360. If you spin around, that's a 360 degree turn. And the last one, adjacent angles are two angles that are next to each other. Okay, they share a side. If I'm walking to somebody adjacent to me, we're walking side by side. Jared,
Should we know what a complementary?
we're not there yet. We will by about 10 minutes. Questions on any of those terms? Obviously, acute means less than 90. Obtuse is bigger than 90. All right, page 17 is where I'd like you now. 17.
Nothing more.
Use the protractor in the picture to find the following. And as Jared mentioned, there's a couple terms here coming up. Maybe you already know them, which is fine. BCA. So you're not measuring this again. It's on top of a protractor. How many degrees do you think BCA is? Brooklyn. 30. Got a label? 30 degrees. Obviously, it's less than 90. You could say, well, it's opening to the left. So it starts at 0. The numbers get bigger. I'm also going to label it here to try to help me with the next question. Next question says BCD. Georgia. 90. You can see 90 right here. 90-degree angle. C, explain how to find ACD. So how would I get this one without having to remeasure with my protractor? Brenna.
90 degrees minus 30 degrees.
90 degrees minus 30, because these two would have to add up to 90, right? So what would that be? 60 degrees, because angle BCA plus angle ACD must equal 90. That's given a special name, which we're going to cover right now. Two angles that add up to 90. Okay, here's a similar type question. Why don't you see if you can answer those two, and then we will discuss using that picture, LOK and LOM. Kellen, you got the first one?
37 degrees.
Bless you. 37 degrees. Anybody have 38? That be wrong, you think, looking at 38 here?
I don't know. I just thought it was like kind of in between.
Yeah. How about 36? Think I could count 36 right? No, I can see the 36 line there. So I could probably take 37 or 38. Both would be correct. Usually I can give you 1 degree leeway as well with no issues. But I couldn't take 40, obviously. I couldn't take 39. And I couldn't take 36 on this one. LOM. Brooks.
180 degrees.
Why?
It's just a straight line.
Straight line, straight angle, right? Anytime you see that, we just learned that last lesson. 180 degrees. C. Explain how to find the measure of KOM. So you just told me this was 37. That's what I'll use. KOM would be this one. How can I get that without measuring? Jared.
Do you add 37 degrees to 180 degrees?
So you think it'll be 207?
Yeah, no, 217.
217.
That's what I got.
Okay, that is incorrect. You're on the right track. Corbin.
Subtract 37 degrees from 180.
Yeah, so these two added together make a straight line. So that means these two added together must equal 180, straight angle. So what is 180 minus 37? 143, got a label? Degrees. Question 3. BAC is a right angle. That should immediately click in something in your mind. What a right angle needs to equal. Find a measure of angle CAD. So that's referring to this one right here. Again, without measuring, I shouldn't have to measure this one. I should be able to answer. Jessa,
26 degrees.
how'd you get that?
I subtracted 64 from 90.
Yeah, because it told me it had to be a right angle. That means those two things have to add up to 90. 26 degrees is correct. Next one. Point O is on a line. Again, a line, a straight angle should tell you something about what it needs to equal. Find the measure of SOP. Again, we should be able to do this without measuring, just based on that information. Chesney,
140.
how'd you get that?
I subtracted 76 from 180.
That's correct. It makes a straight angle. We just learned that was 180. So those two have to add up to 180. All right, next page. Most important terms probably thus far that we cannot get mixed up. Okay, or that's going to throw a lot of things off. Complementary. Complementary are two angles or angles that add up to 90. They equal 90. Anytime you see the word complementary, they add up to 90 degrees. That could be one angle, it could be four angles that are complementary, I guess. They add up to 90. So Kellen, I could say I have a 80-degree angle, and I'll say, what's the complement to that angle? Yeah, it adds up to 90, 10 degrees would be the answer. The other term is supplementary. Supplementary add up to 180 degrees. So Josh, I could say I have a 50-degree angle, and I could say, what's the complement?
130.
What's the complement?
Oh, okay, 40.
40. And I could say, what's the supplement of that 40-degree angle? What's the supplement of the 40-degree angle? 140. Okay, so be careful. Complement means they add up to 90. Supplement means they add up to 180. Big difference between the two. Questions on that? All right. All right. We're on page 23 now. We're going to talk about one last term here. Vertical angles, and we're going to do this on the next page. Okay, on this page, we're just going to draw a pair of intersecting lines. And I don't really care what they look like. I'm just using my protractor as basically a ruler at this point. All right, and I can measure any angle now that I wanted. I'm going to measure just one side here, and I'm going to put 55 degrees. Again, you can use my 55, you can measure yours, it doesn't matter. But once you have one angle, when you have intersecting lines, you can figure out the other three. And there's a couple different ways to go about it. Okay, the new term that I want you to know is vertical angles. That's angles that are across from each other. Angles that are across from each other are equal. Okay, once you know one angle, you don't have to measure it. So which other angle could I figure out then? The one across from the 55 would be 55. Okay. Also, when you have intersecting lines, adjacent angles, angles each next to each other, the share side, are going to be supplementary. So if they got to be supplementary, that means they have to add up to 180. So without measuring, I should be able to get this one. 125. So what do you think this one has to be? 125. And look, these two add up to 180. These two add up to 180. These two add up to 180. These two add up to 180, all the way around. Vertical angles. Angles across from each other are equal. Angles across from each other are equal. If I would add up all of those, what do you think I'd get? 360. It goes all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to give you one more and have you figure it out. Let's say this is 23 degrees. You find the other three. Brody, haven't heard from you yet. Do you have any of those angles figured out?
The supplementary angle would be 157 degrees.
Autumn, give me another one.
The one underneath the 157 is 157 degrees.
All right, either supplementary here or vertical. Josh, last one.
23.
Good job, Josh. Okay, supplementary, or vertical. Either way is fine. Okay. Questions? All right, last part I want to talk about. We're going to do one together, and then there's going to be a few other sets here. It says measure the angle in one column. Find the measure. Your partner will work on the other. Your answers in each row should be the same. If they aren't the same, work together. So we're going to do one together. So let's say I'm your partner, all right? I want you to do letter B. I'm going to do letter A. Don't go ahead, Josh. Just the first one in column B. All right, partner, what'd you get? 46. So I wrote down 56. Did we get the same?
No.
No. So if that happens, and you're going to have a partner here, if that happens, you got to say, well, one of us is wrong. So we got to figure out who went wrong. So then we discuss, well, these two are complementary, means they add up to 90. So 44 plus what is 90? You would say 46. And I'd say, well, that's 90. So what did I do wrong?
You added an extra 10.
Yeah, so if I had add those up, I'd get 190. And you would say, well, two supplementary angles have to add up to 180. So then I'll go, well, I'll try your 46 and say, hey, you're right. And I would fix mine. Now that you're both correct, now you move on to the next one. You do the same thing with your partner. Does that make sense? You do not move on until you agree on the answer. So I want you to partner up. One of you will do column A. One will be do column B. You do not move on until you both agree. All right? Go ahead. I'll give you about 5 minutes. Well, I'll give you a hint that there's supplementary. Yeah, so read the words, that'll help you. Little hints in the box there.
Oh my gosh. No, I was wrong. Okay.
Oh, I got 51. What do you get?
Want me to label it? Okay.
Go on to the next page.
Yes. There's 5 total. He's doing A's.
Okay, now we do the next one. You do A. 48.
One left.
Because these two are complement magical.
Oh, the word from it?
Yeah, there's a word.
Oh,
Yeah, there is a word one there at the bottom, so that's the fifth one.
ew. Oh, that's 100.
Wait, I have to find two numbers.
Complementary.
Yeah, we both got it.
Yes. Okay, and what, so then I would go, what is it?
Everybody's starting to wrap up here, a couple minutes. We'll be done at 10 o'clock, we'll go through them.
48.
If you agree on all of them, give each other a high five, go back to your original spot. please. All right. Georgia, your group. What'd you get for the first one you were supposed to do there?
We both got 39.
39 degrees. Anybody have something different? And again, that would be true, obviously, for both of them. Next page, top of 26. Some people were asking, well, we haven't talked about measuring this, but again, the key is knowing that they're supplementary. That's all I need to know. It doesn't matter what the shape is. If it tells me these two things are supplementary, I should be able to get it. Brooklyn, what'd you guys get for that one?
51
Got a label?
degrees.
51 degrees. Don't forget the label there. Make sure it doesn't look like 510 with your little label as well. Next one, Evan, what'd you guys get for that one? 48 degrees. And the last one, Brooks,
We got 53 degrees.
53 degrees. Those all look good to me. Any questions? All right, again, last term was vertical angles, angles that are across from each other. So that means these two would be equal, whatever one is, the other one is. And the other two across from each other would be equal as well. Top of next page also shows you how they are supplementary with the adjacent angles next to them. They will add up to 180. Good? All right, take a look at your homework. We're just gonna do the homework here from lesson 3. Again, don't worry about lesson 1 and 2 homework. I don't believe you will need a protractor. You should be able to figure out all the numbers required there for number 1 and for number 2. You are not measuring anything. Okay, question 3 is asking you about vertical and supplementary. Answer the questions. There was a couple different questions they're asking there, and please explain for question 3. Question 4, a little bit of a review for 4 and 5 here from the last unit, unit 6. Just matching which ones are equal. All of these letters will go with a number on the right. Number 5, you are factoring. So whatever they have in common, take it out. Write down what's left. Question 6, write and solve an inequality based on that paragraph above. Also says to graph the solution, so you're gonna have a number line here with an answer on it once you get an answer. And then make sure you have a little arrow here on 29. There is one more question on page 30 about feeding your dog. Okay, your dog gets 3/4 a cup of food twice a day. Keep that in mind. So, you should know how to figure out how much it gets per day at that point. How many days will the large dog food last? If it has 210 cups in it. Okay, again, you're going to write an equation for that one, and then solve. So 7 questions, a little over 15 minutes to work today. So lesson 3 will be due tomorrow.